Are you ready to design pants, trousers, jeans, or shorts? Let's combine different silhouettes or different style details to create unique styles using the fashion design book. At the end of this chapter, you're also going to notice that there are jumpsuits and rompers. So don't forget that you can always combine these pants styles with different silhouettes and top styles to create onesies. This is going to be a fun one. I want you to grab your paper and follow along in this exercise with me as we draw using the book. Let's first look at the many different silhouettes there are in pants. In the pants chapter, you're going to see lots of different silhouettes. And on this first page here, we have once again the different waistlines and the different length options. So that means that we can mix and match any of these options here with every single pair of pants or trousers that you see. The most common silhouettes are going to be found in the library here, and you are going to notice that some of them already have a lot of the design details and workmanship on them. But I don't want you to get overwhelmed with that, and I still want you to design based on what you want. That means mixing and matching the pocket details, changing up the stitching to be maybe double needle instead of single needle, or changing the waistband heights or adding belt loops, things like that. All of the options can be mixed and matched. So the more common silhouettes would be the cigarette silhouette or a carrot shape. Then we also have the skinny jeans. Of course, based on the time period and what's trending in fashion, these silhouettes can be ever changing. So that's why we have lots of different options to choose from. And you can always change the fullness of the leg. So don't feel like you have to go with all of these as set options. Feel free to change it up as you wish. You're also going to find a few different options in the shorts section here, and we have, of course, some room for you to add your own customized shorts and customized pants. Now, when you are adding your own sketches, you might find it the most helpful to draw it out on paper and then add it to the book. Cut and paste it into the book instead of drawing directly into the book. That's up to you though. So if you're not sure where to start, I want you to look at the silhouette, which is the outer lines. Don't pay attention to the inside because that is going to be up to you to design. So what is a nice silhouette that you like? I'm going to go ahead and choose the capri wide leg, and I have a thin piece of marker paper that's ready to go. I've already folded it to find my center line. And I'm going to line it up to the center of the pair of pants as close as I can. And I'm going to go ahead and trace this as the outer line. Of course, if I was using the reference method, I would go ahead and trace my croquis first. We usually do a little zigzag Z to indicate the crotch position. And I'm going to change up my waistband now, and I also want to change up my pockets. Going to look at my different options later on in the book with the pockets. So I could go with patch pockets here. I could go with front pockets as well. Different options here. Actually, I really like this kind of oversized look here. And I'm also going to go with an oversized waistband. So I have more waistband options here. So I'm going to go more with that basic wide option, and this is where I'm going to just be drawing in as referencing instead of tracing. And I want to really go with an oversized pocket here. I'm going to add some top stitching here as well. The top stitching tends to make it a little bit more casual, and I actually want to add a belt loop in there. So I'll add my belt loop here, going over the waistband. So that means I have to erase that waistband seam in there. And then I'm going to do my hemline here, the top stitch. All right, I really like that a lot. I'm going to fold it in half. Now the position of the pocket might be a little bit close to the J stitching when I get to the other side, but we'll see. So this is where it gets a lot harder with marker paper because we definitely can't see through with that pencil. It's definitely a lot harder to do. So I have a couple options. If I had, of course, a light box or something like that, I could put it on there, or I could simply put it up on a window and tape it onto a window that's going outside. Then I can see through and do my tracing on the window. So you can see here, I've started to do the tracing on the window, and that works pretty well with paper that's not too thick. However, if you don't have that option, or if it doesn't work for you and you don't want to do it, then your other option is to trace both sides. So we're doing the full entire garment sometimes if we can't see through the paper to get the symmetry. So that would be your other option, is just to trace it through like this. If you do make any changes, then you just have to manually make those changes to both sides. And if this was for a portfolio, I would definitely want to make sure that I'm pretty accurate in those shapes using my rulers. And I would even measure from one side to the other side, making sure it's nice and consistent in that position. And then I have my J-stitch. That's this one here. I'm going to go ahead and draw that J-stitch on there. I'm going to go with a more narrow one so that it doesn't get in the way of that pocket. And that actually looks pretty good to me. Keep going with the top stitching. And with pants and trousers, it's really common to do the top stitching to make it look more casual, like I mentioned. And that top stitching really adds a nice finishing detail to it. So don't forget the top stitching. It really can change the look of the pair of pants or trousers and give it a totally different feeling, especially if it's a contrast stitch, like a gold stitch or white stitch or something like that. So I really like those pants. I really love them so much. So the next step would be to do the back. And how do you do the back when you can't see through the paper? So if right here I can see through it pretty well enough that I could probably do it. But another way to do the back then would be to go from the front of this one. So the same thing that we just did, we would do the outer line of the pants, and usually the back comes up just a little bit higher than the front does. And we're just going to trace that off. Now, if you're not using the tracing method and you're using the reference method instead, you're still tracing that croquis to get the shape of the croquis and then drawing your style on there. So I would measure out my waistband height here. Make sure I'm mimicking that same height on this side. Any sort of seams that would have to match up to the back, I would also measure those. Add my belt loops on here. So I'm going to actually erase a bit of that seam here and here. I'm going to do a double belt loop at the center back and a belt loop on the side here as well. Then I have to choose back pockets. So back pockets definitely could use some sort of a welt pocket like this. It's set into the garment, or the patch pockets. Patch pockets here could be used also for dresses or skirts, and they work great for back pockets of pants. I think I'm going to go with something more like this with the slight point on each end. And then I also need to have some sort of back dart or a yoke in there. And if I were to do a yoke, I would have probably done the yoke first and then bumped the pockets down. But I'm going to go ahead and do it double darts in the back. We always need to have at least one dart in the back or a yoke seam when we don't have an elastic waistband or a draw cord waistband. And then I can choose my top stitching details that I want to do. And of course the angle of the pockets is really up to you. If you don't want them this angled, you could definitely take down the angle a little bit. We'll do the top stitching for the waistband, and also I forgot to do the top stitching for the belt loops. We usually have a little bar tack on the belt loops. Bar tack is a really close zigzag stitch. I'm going to also add a top stitch down the center of my belt loops and my hemline. Now, if I wanted any sort of design lines or anything, I could then add them to my sketch. So that is my pair of pants or trousers, however you call them, depending on where you live. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you're really enjoying the fashion design book. It is so much fun to design with, and I am really enjoying these videos. If you are too, please give it a like and a thumbs up so that it spreads to more people. I really appreciate it. You'll notice in the next chapter, it's all about pockets. So you're going to often be referring to the pocket chapter when you decide on your design details for your pants. One thing to pay attention to as a designer is what type of design lines do you want to achieve? The shapes of the pockets are definitely going to reflect the shapes of your design lines. For example, if you have a slashed pocket, which is a slanted pocket and very straight, you might not want to mix that with design lines that are very curved. Think about the way your design lines and pocket shapes go together. Is it a cohesive design language? Consider other design details that you can change, like the waistband heights, the type of closures, top stitching, adding belts, and adding design lines. Besides the silhouette that's there, try to come up with other design options found throughout the book to make your styles unique. And more than likely, there are going to be things that are not in the book, and that will push you to start sketching those ideas on your own. So the big takeaway here is choose the silhouette you want and make sure that your design language is cohesive throughout the entire garment, plus whatever you're going to wear it with. All right, we are getting to the end of the fashion design book through this entire video series linked through the book. I hope you're really enjoying this process. I certainly am. And I love seeing everyone's progress here. In case you don't have the fashion design book, you can find it on Amazon and most online book retail stores, or through the link in the description below. I'm Gina Renee, and I teach online pattern making and design courses so that you can design and sew clothes you love that fit. If you've enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.